Welcome back to Perkins Pipes. Have the delightful old Kaywoodie bulldog out here. Vintage estate pipe. Did an episode on this guy a while back. Boy, he's got some very, very pretty grain. Not sure if that'll pick up on the video, but boy, I sure do like this guy. I hope there's enough tobacco in this bowl for the conversation that we've got headed for us today. Whether you are young or whether you are old, this is one you're going to want to check out. Folks, as always, let's get this guy lit. Let's get to talking. At old age. Don't shut this off if you're young. There's a reason why this is an appropriate topic for both the young and the old. Somewhere in the mid 40s BC, Cicero wrote a work on old age. I've got a delightful little copy of it here. You see, it says Cicero de Senectute. Cicero on old age. And the copyright for this guy is 1924. So this little book is 101 years old. Cicero, of course, the statesman, philosopher, 1st century BC, lived from 106 to 43 BC, so he died in 43. And we know the last few years of his life were quite troubled. His daughter had died in childbirth in 45. Caesar, of course, was assassinated in 44, so a lot of upheaval going on in society. So somewhere around in there, Cicero wrote, and it goes by a couple different titles, the Cato Major, or De Senectute. Now, the reason it goes by that name is that it's the form of a dialogue. So one of the main dialogue participants was Cato the Elder, Cato Major. But then Cicero wrote to a friend of his that he was writing this De Senectute about old age. So it kind of goes by both titles. And I want to share just a little bit of it with you. Let me find it here. This is from section 17.62 and 63. I want to start off, I'm starting off with what he started off with here. And why this is an important topic to think about even when you're younger. Yes, middle age, but even younger than that, even in your adolescence. In fact, that's how Cicero starts. He says, sed in omni ratione mementote eam me senectute laudare quae fundamentis adolescentiae constituta sit. Well, he says, remember, in all this speech, that I praise, and this is the character of Cato speaking, but it's Cicero writing, that I praise that old age which has been established in the foundations of youth. He says, ex quo efficator id quod ego magno quondam coma sensu omnium dixi. He says, and from this it comes about, and he says, and I've said this with the agreement of everybody, so everybody agrees on what I say here. Miseram esse senectutem quae se oratione defenderat. It's a pretty pathetic old age that has to defend itself. Non cani, non rugae repente auctoritatem repere possunt. Neither white hair nor wrinkles can suddenly seize upon authority. Sed honeste acta superior aetas fructus capit auctoritatis extremos. But it is the earlier life, honorably lived, that takes the fruits, the last fruits of authority. So in other words, it's not just because you got white hair, white beard, and wrinkles that gives you the authority in old age. An older person could be a jerk. An older person could be an idiot. Okay? So let's just be clear about that, he says. All right? It's that old age which has had its foundation in youth. In other words, you've been building up your life since the time you were young. You've lived it honorably. And so by the time you do get older, people know you. They know you as a person of honor. They know you as a person of wisdom. And yes, then they will listen to you. All right? They will listen to you and hear you speaking with authority. Now, yes, we're supposed to respect our elders. There's no question about that. You respect your elders. But not everything that an older person says is valuable. Heaven knows, I think we all know that. So if you want to be respected, well, that's just old age. But if you want people to listen to you, if you want your words to have value, then that starts when you are younger. So, any younger viewers out there, think about it now. What sort of older person do you want to be? And think about it in your lives, whatever age you are. Who are the people, the older people that you have listened to? Who are the older people that have given you sound advice? Who are the older people to whom you have looked up? What kind of people are they? How did it come to be that you sought out their counsel? How did it come to be that you looked to them and listened to them, and when they said something, you put it into practice? Now, what will it take for you to be that kind of person? Right? What sorts of behaviors do you have to develop in your younger years so that when you are older, people are going to listen to you? And then he goes on to say in section 63, he says, Haec enim ipsa sunt honorabilia quae videntur levia atque communia. He says, now there are marks of honor which seem kind of trivial and common. I'm going to skip what those are for just a moment. And he goes on to say, he says, ita diligentissime observantur. He says, these are the most carefully looked for, actually. These are the things that people really do want. They seem like no big deal, but these are the real marks of honor that come to old age. And he has a string of present passive infinitives, to be blank, right? To be painted, to be purchased, words like that, that's present passive infinitive. And he has a long string of them. He uses no conjunctions, and that's a rhetorical device that we call ascendative. So it's just boom, 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 boom. He kind of wants to overwhelm the reader with these marks of honor of old age. And here they are. Salutari, ad peti, decedi, ad surgi, deduci, reduci, consuli. The marks of honor of old age. To be greeted, to be sought out, to be gotten out of the way for, to be stood up for, to be led out and led back again, to be consulted. It's usually with my juniors in third year Latin that we read this passage. And so we talk about it in detail. And what it means to honor, for example, grandparents, aunts and uncles, great-grandparents, great aunts and uncles, in this way. So I kind of want to walk through these with you. And it seemed like no big deal. He said, but these are really the good things. Right? These are really the marks of honor of old age. Right? He says, to be greeted, One of the greatest plagues for elderly people is loneliness. People who just pass them by, ignore them. Maybe they live away from family and friends, or family at least. Maybe they don't go out that much, and when they do, it just seems like the world is a big bloomin' buzzing confusion. Greet an elder. And it kind of doesn't matter how old you are, right? So if you're 17, right, greeting somebody, in their 40s. If you're 40, greeting somebody who's in their 70s, saying hello to them. I always like using sir and ma'am with people who are older than I am. To be sought out. To be sought out. This is why it means so much for elderly people, especially those who are in nursing facilities and assisted living homes and so forth. When young people come by, whether it's family or it's a group from a school or a church, actually to seek them out. To say, hey, I want to spend some time with you. Oh, that's a mark of honor for old age. To be gotten out of the way for. It's easy to see older people sometimes as just slow, right? Slow drivers, slow walkers, and I've got somewhere to be. I got somewhere to go. I tell my students, if you're driving, and if you need to pass somebody, you pass somebody, of course. But don't just hit the gas and go like the Indy 500 and just zoom right past them and cut right back in front of them. It makes an older person feel nervous. They may be nervous about driving on the roads to begin with. Here comes some hot rod cutting them off. You walk in a store, take a wide berth around somebody, right? Get out of the way. Or, the best thing, you see somebody coming to the store, hold the door open. Doesn't matter if you are a man or a woman, or the person having the door held open is a man or a woman. Hold the door open. Get out of the way, right? If you're at a family gathering, don't just muscle in for the food. Let grandma or grandpa get in there first. To be stood up for. I had the first 2 years we were teaching, my wife and I were teaching, I was in the inner city of Kansas City and had a guy that I enjoyed his company very much, taught history, 8th grade history at our school. And he had a rule when it came to his children. If a bunch of people were sitting around in a family room, and the children's mother came in, or grandmother, grandfather, his children knew, you stand up. You give them a seat. You don't stay sprawled out all over the sofa, legs hanging over the chair, while an older person is looking for a seat. You get up and you offer the seat to somebody. Now, these two words are related. De duki and re duki. The idea is to lead somebody down to the forum, to the marketplace, and lead them back. I say to my wife all the time, we were talking about taxes, we were talking about our medical things and whatnot, and I was like, how do people figure this out? Right? I think about older people and the stress that causes for them. Having somebody to go to the doctor's appointment with them, to be another set of ears, to listen. There's a lot to take in. Especially if you're not feeling that great in the first place. Have somebody take you to go get your medicine, take you to go get your groceries, and then come home. Maybe help you put them away. That's a mark of honor for old age. And then, consoli, to be consulted. My dad passed away in 2009, and I remember we had, sometime before that, so earlier 2000s, we'd gone to southern Indiana to visit my parents, and we were going out to a restaurant, place to eat that I'd known for years. I knew exactly how to get there. My dad was right in the front seat with me. And I turned to him and I said, now, should I take this exit or the next one? I'll never forget my dad saying, now let's see, you're going to want to take, whichever one it was, and then you're going to want to turn here. And, he just rose to that. I didn't need to ask the question, but he needed to be asked. He needed to be consulted. That's a mark of honor in old age. I really am curious what your thoughts are about all this. What your thoughts are about these marks of honor, how to live an honorable life early in your years so that you're set up to have a life of authority when you're older. Love to know what you think. Folks, as Malcolm Guite likes to say, I do these little things in order at last to do nothing. Or as I like to say in Latin, Parva agam ut tandem, nihil agam. Have a wonderful day.